All right, great. Well, welcome back to Fit Focus Forum. All right, I'm glad anybody that showed up to watch this live is here. If you're watching it on the replay, very happy that you took the time out to learn a little something new today. Today, we're going to dive into a topic that's often overlooked in our fast-paced world of fitness, but it's absolutely one of the most important things that you can do for your body. We are going to talk about the role of rest and why recovery really is your most important workout. So now you've probably heard the saying, no pain, no gain. I actually absolutely hate that saying. I feel like the no pain, no gain thing is a very 80s thing where people took that to heart and would work out until they were injured in order just to try to see the results that they were looking for. So we're going to completely get that phrase out of our heads today and just think of a better saying being no rest, no gain, right? Because we live in a society that celebrates the hustle and grinding it out. But when it comes to fitness, pushing through every single day can actually be extremely counterproductive. Rest is not a sign of weakness or laziness. It's actually a critical, non-negotiable part of the process. So we're going to break down exactly what happens during recovery today. We're going to talk about the different types of recovery, and most importantly, how you can start building a solid recovery routine that works for you. So first, let's talk about the why. So when you work out, you're not actually building muscle. And I've discussed this in a couple of the Fit Focus forums that we've had before. What you're actually doing is creating microscopic tears in your muscle fibers. You're also depleting your body's energy stores, specifically something called glycogen, and you're putting stress on your nervous system as well. So there are three big things that are happening in your body that you're just kind of tearing it down while you're at the gym, while you're doing your runs, and even if you have a really intense yoga class. All of the magic actually happens after the workout when you're resting. So during this recovery period, your body steps in and it repairs those micro tears, building back the stronger and bigger muscles than you had before. It replenishes your energy stores and allows your nervous system to calm down and reset. Now, if you don't allow this to happen, you can't get stronger and you risk a burnout. And as I was just talking about with our client, Nico, injury, which can happen to all of us and normally does, but the less you rest, the more chance you have of an injury happening. So when you think about your fitness goals, remember this: the gains you are chasing are built on rest. The hard work is in the gym, but the progress is made when you're not at the gym. So I'm going to do a little recovery fact and fiction. All right. And Nico is the only one that's here today. So Nico, you're going to have to answer all of these for me. All right. So open your chat. And if you're watching on the replay, I would love to hear what your thoughts are what your thoughts are on these in the comments. But we're going to do a quick quiz to see what you know about recovery. I'm going to say a statement and I want you to type fact or fiction. As easy as that. You can do it in the comments or you can do it in the chat if you're watching this live. All right. You ready, Nico? All right. So first one, soreness is always a sign of a good workout. Go ahead and type your answer now. Fiction. Sorry to disappoint you. While, some soreness is normal, it's not a reliable indicator of a successful workout. You can have an incredible workout and not be sore at all, or be extremely sore from a new movement, right? Soreness just means that your body's adapting, not necessarily that you worked harder or smarter. I'm going to give you a prime example from this week of lifting for myself. I had suffered a little bit of a groin pull, which is not completely gone, but it is getting better. So I haven't really been doing any lateral movements, and I did cut out my really heavy squats and deadlifts, and I've just been basically doing hip thrusters for most of my lower body, really heavy strength training, like the 6 to 8 rep max. I've still been doing like narrow stance squats and things that are not going to put too much stress on my groin muscles. But I haven't done deadlifts in a couple months, and I did deadlifts this week. Actually, it was yesterday. And right now, my spinal erectors, which are the muscles on the sides of your spine, especially the lower spinal erectors in the lower back, are on fire. They are super sore. Even though I backed off the weight, I still put on a decent amount of weight. Not what I was lifting before, but I tried to get as close as possible without feeling like I was going to injure myself. No injury there because I really feel like I had good form. I've been doing deadlifts for a long time. However, I can feel my lower back today. Not in a bad way. It's just super, super sore. So if you're looking at soreness as an indicator of getting back into a movement, right, and utilizing a muscle in a way that you haven't in a long time, that's great, right? But you're not necessarily looking for that after every single workout just to judge if you had a good workout. So statement number two, you only need rest days if you lift heavy weights. Fact or fiction? And give everybody just a little bit of time to answer. All right. We got a correct answer here. It is fiction. All right. So, regardless of your activity, whether it's running, as I mentioned a moment ago, yoga or weightlifting, your body and central nervous system, they need time to recover and reset. Pushing a pace you can sustain, that you can't sustain, excuse me, can lead to injuries or burnout just as easily. I also don't like the saying of no days off. There's actually a gym in Miami. I'm not going to mention the name of the gym, but their tagline is no days off. And I think that is one of the worst taglines because I used to work out there, they're not talking about no days off, meaning like you also need recovery days. They're literally talking about like take no days off and you're going to get great results. That is not good advice, everyone. Do not listen for that. That is a recipe for disaster. Make sure that you get your recovery days. All right, last one. You can catch up on lost sleep over the weekend. What do you think? That fact or fiction? Nico's already shaking his head no. We'll wait a second to see some response. All right. So this actually is fiction. Okay. So while sleeping in can help you feel better, plenty of studies have shown that you can't fully reverse the negative effects of chronic sleep deprivation. All right. So now you know a little bit more about the truth behind some of the common recovery myths. Let's get into the three pillars of recovery. So, recovery isn't just about sitting on the couch, and it does have three key components. The first pillar is sleep. All right. So, we're not talking about just getting a few hours here and there. We're talking about making it a priority. Sleep really is the ultimate reset button. When you're sleeping, your body is doing some of its most important work. It releases human growth hormone, which is essential for repairing the microscopic tears in your muscles from your workout that we were just talking about. And deep sleep is the most restorative stage. This is really crucial for physical repair and muscle growth as your body releases the human growth hormone. It also plays a vital role in cognitive function as well, and also memory consolidation. This is going to ensure that you wake up feeling refreshed and mentally sharp as well. So, a lack of sleep can make you more reactive to stress, more irritable, and it can even magnify feelings of anxiety and worry. Trust me, when I've partied and I've not slept for a while, or I've gone to Fire Island and not slept. I'm saying that because Nico's going to Fire Island today or this weekend. You can really feel the effects of that lack of sleep. I am definitely more irritable. And for somebody that struggles with an anxiety disorder, when I don't get sleep, it makes it 10 times worse, right? Think about it. It's like trying to run a marathon on an empty tank. You are just not going to perform your best in any of those situations. So consistent quality sleep is your body's way of calming down your nervous system, regulating your hormones, and giving your brain the time it needs to process and consolidate memories. It really helps you build mental resilience as well. Now, for adults, the recommendation is to get about 45 minutes to 2 hours of deep sleep per night. Now, this data can be tracked by a variety of devices, including smartwatches like the Apple Watch or Fitbit, smart rings like the Oura Ring, or dedicated sleep trackers like the Whoop Band. I've heard really great things about the Whoop Band. I've had a couple clients that have used them. I don't have one myself. I do have an Apple Watch, but unfortunately, it does not track my sleep. And I will tell you guys why. So if you are in the same position as me, you don't run out and buy a Whoop Band or an Apple Watch thinking you're going to be able to track your sleep. I am covered in tattoos. So because the devices use light piercing your skin to measure I'm sorry, I'm having a little brain fart on words here. Using the light piercing your skin to measure the changes in your body, right? Like temperature and blood flow and blood pressure and all that stuff. The ink in tattoos prevents that light from doing its job. So as I do wear an Apple Watch, I cannot even turn on the setting that unlocks it when you raise your hand, the wrist lock, right? So my watch is always unlocked until I take it off. So that means that I have to punch in my code every time I want to use my debit card or my credit card. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but it's because I have tattoos. So in actuality, my husband lost his Aura ring in Fire Island when we were there a couple weeks ago. So he ordered a new one the other day. They have a new one that just came out, and he ordered one for me last night. So my Aura ring is going to be here tomorrow. So I'm going to be tracking my sleep now on an Aura ring. I'm actually really excited about that because I am really, as I get older, really a lot more interested in my deep sleep cycles because we do have a bed. It's called an 8 sleep bed. If you've never heard of that before, basically it's just like it looks like a fitted sheet that goes over your bed, but it cools and heats the bed with water, right? So you can't, it's not like a water bed, right? And somebody was like, I used to have a water bed when I was a kid. That's how old I am. We had water beds in our houses. But what it has is these really thin tubes that you can't really feel when you're sleeping. It's super comfortable, and they heat and cool the bed. But what it also does is it has sensors in it so that it can detect your snoring. It can detect what sleep stage you're in throughout the night. Now, it's not as accurate as something like an Aura Ring or a Whoop Band, but it has given me some interesting insight. And I am actually super excited to get my Aura Ring tomorrow and go to sleep because I'm finally going to be able to wear something because of my tattoos that's going to give me an accurate reading on how much deep sleep I'm getting. And, you know, with how much that I personally work out and how much our clients are active, I really want to pay attention to that deep sleep as much as possible. So, as I said, 45 minutes to 2 hours of deep sleep per night. I think as you get older, that deep sleep unfortunately gets shorter, but you should definitely be getting at least 45 minutes. So, how can you improve? Don't stress over a perfect 8 hours of sleep every night. Just focus on a consistent routine. Excuse me. Try to go to bed and wake up around the same time each day, even on the weekends, and create a simple wind down routine. Maybe that's dimming the lights, listening to some music, avoiding screens for an hour before bed, meditating, doing some calming breathing exercises. I personally take melatonin when I go to sleep because I know that my sleep cycle is not 100% in the right cycle, and that really does help me a lot. But there's all these things that you can do to help improve your sleep cycle, which is going to help get you into deeper sleep, which means all of that hard work that you're doing at the gym or whatever you're doing for your workouts is going to pay off a lot more, right? I'm somebody who hates putting in a lot of effort and not getting the return that I want to get out of it. So let's talk about the second pillar, which is the fuel that you need. Okay. We're going to talk about nutrition. We've all heard the phrase that you can't out train a bad diet. And there's a lot of truth to that, especially when it comes to recovery. Think of your workout as a demolition crew. So they go in and they tear things down. Your post-workout nutrition is a construction crew that shows up to rebuild the muscles stronger. But they need the right materials to get the job done, right? So those materials are protein, carbs, and healthy fats. So protein is the building block for muscle repair. Remember, we talked about those tiny micro tears in your muscle fibers when you work out a little earlier. Well, protein provides the essential amino acids your body needs to act as building blocks to repair these tears. This process, called muscle protein synthesis, not only fixes the damage, but also makes your muscles stronger and more resilient, directly contributing to muscle growth and reducing post-workout soreness, right? So as it's not bad to be sore after your workout, if you have proper nutrition, you're going to get better recovery and you're not going to be as sore. So it really leads more into the fact that you don't need to be sore after a workout to have gotten a good workout. I want to make that point a couple of times because I hear this from a lot of people that are coming into the program at the very start. I don't feel sore after this workout. What did you give me to do? This isn't working. I promise. If you're doing all of the things, you're going to get the results that you're looking for, but you have to do all of the things. The next one is carbs. All right. That's what replenish your energy stores. So you're not dragging and feeling fatigued later. So during high intensity exercise, your body's primarily uses stored carbohydrates known as glycogen, which we mentioned a moment ago, for fuel. And after a workout, these glycogen stores are depleted. So consuming carbohydrates is critical for replenishing this stored energy in your muscles and your liver. Without sufficient carb intake to refuel, your body's energy levels remain low, which can lead to persistent fatigue and hinder your performance in subsequent workouts. I am absolutely against no carb diets. All right. This is a very important nutrient that your body needs to survive. It is where your body gets energy. So let's talk about that just for a moment. And I will probably mention this every time I talk about no carb diets. If you go on a no carb diet, I hear a lot of people that give the excuse that it works, that they lost 10 pounds in a week. So how could it not be working for me? Well, carbohydrates retain water, right? They help you retain water. So when you eat more carbohydrates, if you go weigh yourself the next morning, you're probably going to have a couple more pounds on you than you did the day before. It doesn't mean you gained weight. And cutting out carbohydrates doesn't mean that you lost body fat, right? And I meant to say body fat, not weight. All it means is that you lost water weight. And as soon as you start eating carbohydrates again, you're going to put all that water weight back on. Now, a lot of people will lose body fat too, just because they've put themselves into a caloric deficit by not eating carbohydrates. But the moral of the story is the way to lose weight is to make sure that you're in a caloric deficit and you're eating below your maintenance calories. Sounds good, right? So healthy fats are the last one, and they're critical for hormone balance and reducing inflammation. You know, healthy fats, particularly omega-3 fatty acids, they play a vital role in two key recovery processes. First, they're fundamental components for production of hormones like testosterone and estrogen, which regulate mood, energy, and overall well-being. Second, they have powerful anti-inflammatory properties that help calm the natural exercise-induced inflammation in your body. So this can lead to reduced muscle soreness, again, and a quicker, more effective recovery. So it sounds like if you're eating right, that muscle soreness isn't really going to be something that is debilitating in the long run, right? Unless you haven't done deadlifts for 3 months and you try to go really heavy. So beyond the physical, proper nutrition really does help keep your energy levels stable. You know, when your blood sugar is all over the place, it can trigger feelings of anxiety and irritability. It's like being on cocaine, to be quite honest. You have those highs and you have those crashes, right? And you just go through that all day. If you're spiking your blood sugar with simple sugars or processed foods. So eating consistent, nourishing meals is a simple way to regulate your mood and keep your energy steady. And remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's really about giving your body the fuel it needs to feel good, all right? Pillar number 3, active recovery and listening to your body, all right? This is a concept that often confuses people. So it's not about pushing through a second workout or trying to earn a rest day. It's about a gentle movement that helps your body heal. Active recovery can be anything from a light walk, some gentle stretching, or a low impact activity like regenerative yoga. Now, when I say yoga, said regenerative yoga on purpose because we've got lots of yogas that aren't necessarily regenerative, right? You know, super power vinyasa, not necessarily regenerative, right? It can have some regenerative process. I'm not saying regenerative if it's not coming out properly. We can have some regenerative properties in that type of yoga. But if you're really going for a yoga that you're looking for recovery, you want to do something that has, you know, long, persistent holds. It's going to help you with your stretches and is very low impact. Now, these type of things are going to increase the blood flow to your muscles. They're going to bring in fresh oxygen and nutrients while flushing out waste products, which is something that we don't think about as well. And this is going to speed up the healing process, right? And it's going to help reduce, guess what? Soreness and stiffness in your body, okay? So most importantly, active recovery is a practice of listening to your body. You know, it's a chance to tune in and ask yourself what you truly need. It says a long walk, excuse me, is it a long walk in a park to clear your head, right? That could be one thing that you do. Is it a quiet stretch session to release tension, which is something that I try to do on Wednesdays when I have my low impact day? This kind of intentional, gentle movement is a form of self-care. It's a way to be kind to your body on days that you're not going full throttle, and it's going to make the rest of your workouts a lot more productive. So remember, recovery isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. You know, by focusing on these 3 pillars, sleep, nutrition, and active recovery, you're not just building a stronger body, you're building a healthier relationship with yourself and more sustainable fitness routine that supports your total well-being. So, let's talk about building recovery into your routine, okay? So how do you actually make this happen? Well, it's a little bit easier than you think. First of all, you need to schedule it, okay? Plan your rest days just like you would a workout. If you know that Thursday is your recovery day, don't feel guilty about it. It's part of your plan. I actually schedule foam rolling in my calendar on my recovery days. Now, foam rolling is something we can dig into deeper on another conversation. You should probably be doing that every day that you work out. It actually helps recovery from your movements on that day, and it also helps your movement patterns if you foam roll before your workouts. But I'm going to do actually an entire presentation on that alone. But myofascial release, it's a wonderful thing. But yeah, I schedule this into my calendar once a week just to make sure I don't do it. And then we also have gentle yoga scheduled in our calendar, my husband and I, once a week, right? And then we also have Sundays where we don't do shit. We do not work out on Sundays. If we do work out on a Sunday, it's because maybe we're traveling on a Monday or a Tuesday because we're not going to get our workout in. But we make sure we have one day a week where we don't do anything. Now, when we don't do anything, we probably walk around the city or we go for a bike ride or something like that. Some days we just sit on the couch and watch TV all day because every once in a while you're allowed to do that as well. All right. But don't think that you're doing something wrong by giving yourself that rest day. Also, prioritizing sleep, right? So you want to try to get to the bed at the same time each night, even on the weekends, boys, which I know is something that most of us do not do, right? But if you can, at least during the week, turn off your screens 30 to 60 minutes before you want to sleep. Talk about this with my clients often, the 3-2-1 rule, right? 3 hours before bed, no food. 2 hours before bed, no liquid. 1 hour before bed, no phone or television. I think the first one and the third one are the hardest because I eat, and I listen, I eat a lot. I do. But when I eat, I'm eating things like fruits and things like that in the evening after dinner. We have fruit for dinner, or we have like triple zero yogurt, excuse me, for dessert, things like that. And because we work late, that can get us pretty close to bedtime. So that one's actually pretty difficult for me. So I'm acknowledging that, based on your schedule and how late you work, it could be very difficult to stop eating 3 hours before bed, especially if you go to the gym and have to get a meal in and go to bed, right? But stopping drinking 2 hours liquid 2 hours before bed, I think is probably the easiest one. Okay. Chug a pint of water 2 hours before you got to go to bed, and I think you're going to be fine. You're not going to be thirsty, unless you're sitting on the couch smoking pot all night. But then that's a different story. And then 1 hour before bed, no phone or TV. That is the hardest one for me, and I know it's really hard for a lot of people. Start with 30 minutes, right? Start with 30 minutes. If it takes you 30 minutes to get ready before bed, stop looking at your emails while you're brushing your teeth. Stop looking at Instagram while you're crawling into bed. I do these things as well. I'm not perfect. Start with 30 minutes and then creep it up to 35 minutes, creep it up to 40 minutes. And eventually maybe you'll get to a point where an hour before bed, you turn off the TV, you put your phone away and you start reading a book, and then you get ready for bed. Those two things combined, 30 minutes of reading and getting ready for bed, boom, you've got that hour without that blue or white light in your face. And it's going to be a lot easier for you to sleep. And finally, just listen to your body. This really is the most important one. If you feel tired or something hurts, it's your body's way of telling you that you need to slow down. You need to recover, right? You need to take some rest. Don't push through the pain. That is a recipe for injury. So just to close out for today, let's make a commitment, all right? In the comments, if you're watching this on YouTube, I want you to share one thing that you'll do this week to prioritize your recovery. Maybe it's going to bed an hour earlier, taking a full rest day, or finally using that foam roller that you got for Christmas 3 years ago that's been sitting in the back of the closet collecting dust, right? So I really appreciate you joining us for the Fit Focus Forum. Thank you, Nico, for being here. And like I said, anybody watching it on the replay, please comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are on how you do recovery, and hopefully this motivates you to take one extra step in that direction so that you can actually start seeing better results from your workouts. Remember, your body wants to work hard for you, so just make sure that you give it the rest that it deserves. If you are looking for a little extra help, leave the comment "my turn" below if you're watching this on YouTube, and someone from our team will reach out to you and have a conversation with you about the steps that you need to take to start finally getting the results from all of this hard work you're putting into your fitness plan.